Awesome, awesome. Welcome and thank y'all so much for being here. We are joined by the Brandon Thompson. Brandon, thank you so much, sir. I truly, truly appreciate you being here, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, brief introduction. Brandon Thompson, Central Florida native, third generation real estate professional, been in business for over 5 years now. Previously, you were the youngest team leader of a market center in all of the North Florida region, which is amazing. Currently serving as vice president of Keller Williams and Professionals, Orlando chapter, top 5% of your market center as a single agent, lover of food, passionate about making a positive change in his community and giving back. I mean, the resume, right? Absolutely amazing, man. So tell us a little bit about you, man. What got you in the industry?
Um, so I'm a huge, but well, short answer, one is just God. That's just the short answer of it. I kind of needed a little bit. He was kind of really loud. I actually tried to get my real estate license when I was 19. And I took the state exam and I failed by like 2 points and then just was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going back to college. I'm doing what I need to do. Life started happening and I got my education. I did the education again and I let 22 months pass before I actually took the exam. And at that point, I was just very determined. And so I passed. It took me 3 times, but I kind of got thrusted into real estate, as I should say.
Wow, awesome, awesome. Never gave up, definitely being determined. So three tries to get into it. You finally pass, get into the industry. So at the start of your career, what took it off? What made it take off? What'd you do in the beginning?
Um, So I would say, we're a company that doesn't shy from failure, right? And really learning. So the first year that I was in real estate, I joined a team because I said I don't care about what money I make. I just want to. I My intention is to become confident, right? The goal is to be a competent agent that knows what he's doing. So let me go ahead and join the number one team at the market at the time. And at that time, the team that I joined was a very highly cold calling prospecting team. And so very high expectations of cold calling, getting cursed out on the phone and all of the good things. And a year passed and I looked at like, where were my closings coming from? Right. And that's why I love Baker Camp. I just came. So if you can see, like I'm very, very right this morning. My voice is usually not this deep yet. Coming back from Mega Camp and a conference, I'm in very chill mode, right? So what I really enjoyed about Make It Campus it was the emphasis on what are the things that bring you joy, right? And kind of looking at it and tying into your strengths. And if you can't tell, I'm a high I, D second. And so I love talking to people and get in front of people. And so my biggest strengths of conversion is when I have that face-to-face interaction. And so really leading into social media, leading into agent-to-agent referrals and leading into open houses when I first got started, that really, I played into my strengths because I looked at where were my closings coming from and I had zero closings from cold calling. And I had multiple closings from open houses and getting in front of social media and getting in touch with my sphere.
I love that. I love that you mentioned Mega Camp. This was my first mega agent camp that I attended, and dude, it was phenomenal. And one of the points that you just touched on was doing what you already find joy in, right?
Mm.
I don't know. Did you get a chance to attend the cultural summit?
No, not the cultural summit.
Man, it was game changing. Like it's like hearing these people get up there and tell you how they were already doing business by just doing what they already love to do.
Yeah.
Like so many foundations and nonprofits that they've started, and it made me look at myself like, what am I doing? Like I'm clearly not doing enough. Right. So that's awesome. I love that you mentioned that, doing what you already find joy in. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so double tapping really quickly. Being the youngest team leader, what was that experience like? How was that for you?
Okay. So kind of a lot of the things, okay, if you're going to take any like takeaways, right? So one of my first takeaways is just show up, right? Being present is half the battle. You see 87% of realtors failing within their first year, and I truly believe it's because they don't show up and plug in. And so you're the blessing to be at an amazing company that offers so many things. And so I was the guy that just showed up. And through relationships, I randomly just got a call from my OP, who I think I might have had like a 15-second interaction in my whole time at KW. And she's just like, hey, I've been trying to get in contact with you and stuff like that. I was like, Lori? And she's like, yeah, I just wanted to I heard a lot of good things about you, get a lot of referrals. So people are putting your names in rooms when you don't even know, right? And so she called me and she's like, hey, have you ever thought of team leader? And I was just like, yeah, in the future. At that time, I was a single agent. I was really revving up, having the best year of my life. And but yet the team leaders that I knew, right, were already 6th or 7th level teams, right? They already did the business. I said, hey, I'm in the process of actually hiring an admin. Like I'm on baby step number 1. And so that's where imposter syndrome comes out. And I again, it's a God thing. It was part of the reason I aligned with KW is God, family, then business. And she said to me, I told her no when she said, hey, do you would you want to be open to exploring team leader? I said no. I had this crazy like imposter syndrome, and I was like, long story short, I had a conversation with somebody who called just out of the blue and kind of shared his experience, right? And that's why I think representation is super important. So the person who called me, his name is Rick Bosley. And at the time, he was in a similar situation where he was a young single agent, kind of, I think, maybe only like 9 months into the business. And then the opportunity of team leader came out. And he became one of the most successful team leaders in our region, owns a huge coaching business, and has a huge team, right? And so he kind of shared his story. So I would say living authentically and genuinely yourself gives others permission to do that the same. And so that's why I'm a huge proponent of DEI and kind of going into alignment and quantum leap in my mission, which is to help underserved communities break generational change through training, education, and real estate. At that time, it was definitely an alignment. So I don't know if I answered that question. I don't even know. I think we went into tangent. I have the quote unquote squirrel brain, what we call that in the industry in realtors. So I might be going, feel free to reel me in. Okay.
It's totally good. You dropped a ton of really good nuggets. I know on this call we've talked about imposter syndrome quite a bit. So the fact that you also faced that, and not only faced it but overcame it is amazing. And it just reaffirms the belief of there's no such thing as you can't do something, right? Or
Absolutely.
not being qualified to do something. Qualifications will come later.
My favorite
Awesome.
quote is God doesn't call oh my goodness, did I forget my quote? God doesn't okay, it's gonna come back to me. It's gonna come back to me. I want to say it eloquently. Okay, go to your next topic.
So you mentioned being involved in DEI, and you're involved in a couple of various of our communities. How would you say being involved in those communities has like helped your business, if at all?
Yeah. Um, the saying "it takes a village" is not, in my personal belief, is not just applicable for raising children, right? This industry is hard. Okay. It is simple, yet it is hard. There's a lot of mental, so if you want to be able to build that mental fortitude, get into real estate, right? Because one minute you're on cloud nine, you have, listen, I got listing appointments, I got under contracts, everything is going, and at the 11th hour, everything crashes and burns, right? And yet really plugging into your people who are and being intentional about the people that you hang around with, right? It's the saying that you're the summation of the 5 people that you hang around with. And so for me, I've really plugged into people and communities that are hugely about abundance mindset, about being highly accountable, not having that victimhood mentality, because it's not that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So any obstacles that come into your way. And so for me, it's being plugged. So I'm a I guess I'll plug into the communities that I'm a part of, right? And so I'm 29 years old now, 6 months into that 30 club, and we are, so I'm plugged into on a high level KW Young Professionals chapter. I'm also part of the Rainbow Network as well. Come on, KWYP, part of the Rainbow Network as well. And then the BREN, because I do identify as Black, right? And definitely for me, KWYP and KW Rainbow Network have been life changing. Just being able to plug into those communities, and I tell you, we're probably no. Oh, this is recorded. I would say we're kind of KWRI. I'm gonna say it. Favorite child. If you look at like all of the things and all the opportunities out there, if you when you're plugged into that network of high producing individuals, my goal is to never be the biggest person in a room. I want my resume to be like, oh, she's cute. Everybody has 10x that, because you grow into the surroundings that you surround yourself with. So definitely just being able to plug in, and into a network where if there's any sort of business that you want to build, whether that's prospecting, whether that's open houses, whether that's social media, there's somebody within the communities that I'm currently in. If I went ahead and say, hey, my name is Brandon Thompson, I don't know you, I'm part of this community, there's no gatekeeping. And so that's what I love about the communities and KW as a whole, is that we're a very open book company. And so we're very freely talk about money, wealth, strategies, and things of that nature, and very transparent. I love that, like, hey, you can look at everybody's numbers. It's an open book company, and yeah, I think I answered that question.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you definitely did. And I love that you said that. Being a part of YP, man, it's such a huge network. So many, like you said, so many professionals in that group. No gatekeeping. Everybody's there to help, which is amazing. Something else that, I mean, I don't know if it's a community yet. I think it's on its way to being a community, that you're actually spearheading, is the Black Haven Network, which I think is really amazing. So it's a network within the Rainbow Network. So just kudos to you. That's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Love that. So going back, I know you have gone through so many different phases in your career, right? What would you say has been one of the biggest obstacles that you have kind of encountered or faced?
Hmm. Biggest obstacles. Um, I
Kind of
would
experience.
no worries. Um, Biggest obstacles. I would say my biggest obstacle probably has been allowing myself to I would say mental health. I think that has been the biggest obstacle for myself in going through life changes and actually getting enrolled in therapy this year. I think, you may want to invest your money into becoming a whole part of yourself, right? More than a coach. I think that your money might go a little bit further in developing and learning certain things about myself. Because I think one of the things about this company that definitely 10x, being a part of this community 10x, my natural um solution minded. And what I found out, right, is that naturally I'm very solution minded, from, me hustling in high school to selling candy so I can go on these trips, for because I was in the arts, and I was the guy hustling, taking the Lynx bus and all of the good things. I've always just like, okay, I don't have time to feel, right? And then so what I've learned in this previous season, of that it's okay to actually sit back and say, I am acknowledging and feeling this in this moment, and sit in it for a second. Because when you deny yourself that humanity to go ahead and get in touch with and just go always straight to solution minded, which is a great thing. And yet you do have to allow yourself to have that humanity. And so what I've learned over the course of this past year is that I was having a yo-yo in terms of like, hey, 2 months I would be great, and then something would happen and I would just get into this like darkness. And but yet allowing myself to actually get in touch and being proactive in terms of mental health, along with surrounding yourself in communities, that has been my biggest hurdle of like, okay, it is okay to actually be human. Because I think a lot of the times we're just like, oh, we have to be superstars, we have all of this responsibility. So to be back and to be able to sit still and present in the moment, allow yourself to feel, be human, and then focus on the solution. It's okay to feel your emotions, not sit in them, yet you do have to be able to feel them for a second in order to not deny your humanity.
Absolutely. I love, love, love that you mentioned that. As builders, and I think you touched on it. A lot of times we get so caught up in the do, instead of just being, right?
Mm.
Instead of, like you said, just sitting with it for a moment. And taking care of yourself, right? Prioritizing self and self-care is super, super important. And I think it is definitely an obstacle that a lot of agents face. Because like you said, we get into the mindset of just go, 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 go all the time. And we never take a second to like, okay, let's breathe. Like let's chill for a minute. Let me process, let me experience, let me be in the moment, be present, when it comes to, family, relationships, in the office, what have you, being present is super, super important. You can only do that by being present with yourself first. So I love that you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So what would you say has been, we talked about your obstacles, what would you say is been your biggest achievement out of your career? I know you're just getting started, but
um Biggest achievement. Ah, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think being able to, I think my biggest achievement thus far is um being in leadership positions, and not just like through title, but like actions alone, and pouring into others. I think that's what fills my cup, right? Is being able to see somebody and have a little bit of a conversation and dissect, and being able to push people past their comfort zone and push them into their growth zone and see people grow. I think that's where I find more pleasure now these days. It's like real estate is fun, right? And doing it, and there's the language of sales, and I'm definitely a professional learner in getting into, and I would say I'm pretty solid now in terms of like my buyer consultations, my seller consultations. Like it's pretty like, listen, I love objection handling, script and role play. Like I do that all day, every day. Like, listen, oh, you ain't about to tell me nothing about this market, right? Um,
love that.
so I think for me, I'm kind of in a point where um my biggest achievement thus far is being in a position, I would say, being in a position where I have my cup is full, that I can pour from the overflow into other people. I think that is my biggest achievement thus far, is setting up myself in a position of overflow, because you don't want to, because I do also want to give this caveat too, because you don't want to pour from an empty cup, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I do want to touch on that for like 2 seconds. I in this industry, there are so many people who we are responsible for so many people's emotions, right? Sometimes we're just like overplayed therapists as well for other people, right? Through our buyers and sellers and all of that good stuff. And so I do want to stress the importance of pouring into yourself and filling yourself with joy, right? Because it is so easy when you have so many people asking for your attention and so many people going ahead and pleading for you, and you having to be the peacekeeper of throughout everything in the transaction. It's so easy for things to go ahead and for your mindset to shift, because the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is to make sure that you are full and that you're in a proper mindset, because there are two things that can happen. There was a point in my business where I would get leads that came in, or and leaves that came in, and it felt like a burden instead of a blessing, because I was so burned out, right? A burden. I was like, and I fundamentally knew by being plugged into the communities that like, no, that is a wrong mindset to have. And yet it would still logically, but what I felt was like, man, I can't do this. I can't take on this additional thing because there's just nothing else for me to give. And so the importance of really being able to fill up your cup, and fill your cup up so you can start looking things at as moments of opportunity and blessings, instead of a burdens. I think that's the biggest thing if you want to take a takeaway.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we touched on it briefly earlier also, but making sure that you're in the right headspace to be able to do that, to be able to pour into others, and keep the train going, right? So
Yes.
definitely finding the things that give you joy. I love that you mentioned that. Um, awesome. So what would you say, what is next for your career? You've done the team leader route, you're done the solo agent. What's next for you? We growing the team? Are we taking over the world?
Yeah, so so right now, so how am I where I'm a solo agent and I have two admin, right? And so I definitely am. I wasn't in a season or in a mindset to actually bring on agents. Um, so, but I'm thinking I'm in the next year. Definitely, we're gonna bring in some agents, and then also, I'm all about getting outside of your comfort zone. And so I'm a born and raised Central Florida native. And so I'm currently in the process of getting licensed in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, just because that's a city that I've identified that it has everything that I look for. Uh, in terms of diverse food, price point. It just seems like a total vibe. So I'm excited to kind of get into that next thing. And then for me, it's more about getting enrolled in Toastmasters and being able to master the art of public speaking, to be able to effectively affect people in a short amount of time. I think that's where I find a lot of joy. So during Rainbow Camp, I was sitting on two panels, and it was really confirmation for people who were like, hey, that was amazing. So just honing in on those skills and being able to kind of pour out and pour into others, and then getting more into definitely in 5 years wealth, multiple properties, and businesses, and definitely I would say 5 years from now, let's see, it's August 18th, so in 2028, to be financially free. And Gary Keller's definition of that is to have enough passive income to cover your living expenses. And so that's definitely where I see myself within 5 years.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. I know Thrive 25 is to create 100,000 agent millionaires. So that's KW's like official goal. So absolutely right on track with that. Amazing. Well, so I want to open it up to the floor. You've been getting lots of love in the chat. I don't know if you've seen it,
Uh,
but definitely getting some love in the chat. So I want to open it up to the floor. If anybody has any questions that they want to throw at Brandon, now is your opportunity. We have about 6 minutes left.
I have a question.
Yes.
yes.
Hi, Carlos. Thanks for bringing Brandon on, the call. That's pretty awesome. Brandon, you're a superstar for sure, and what we call like really embodying the KW culture. One question for you: how do you, if you had to also share from your experience, right, when it comes to handle stress, rejection, that kind of? It sounds like you kind of change. In some way, shape, right, the path of your story, life story, family, etc. People that encounter with those kind of challenges, right? Again, like in success of real estate or other elements, how do you handle that?
How do I handle the stresses? Can
Yeah.
you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, how do you handle stress? Like, stress, rejection, running into obstacles. I'm not sure if you have that, fear of, being challenged or whatever. How if you how to consult the rest of us, how to overcome that? What would you say?
My mornings. I'm really it's about what Miracle Morning. I don't know if you read that book. But being able to pour into yourself first. And what I love about doing it in the morning is that you don't have like you already got it done for the day, right? And so give me 2 seconds. My laptop is at 2%, so I am going to plug it in real quick, so I do not die in mid sentence. So let's see.
I think that's a good point that that you bring up, Manny, is being an agent, we do face a lot of like stressors and rejection just being out there in the industry. And Miracle Morning is something that I know that I've also used personally. And I know we have the Miracle Morning Zoom call every morning to help set that mindset. And I think, like we touched on before, having the proper mindset and pouring into yourself helps you to be able to overcome those rejections and the stressors that you face throughout this industry, right? So I think that's definitely something awesome. And Brandon, you'll have to check out our Miracle Morning that we do every morning, 7 a.m. We do the Miracle Morning as a group, so that's awesome.
I love that. Alrighty, so I'm at 1% and it's charging, so we are still on board. Yeah, I would say doing so is our industry, right? In how do you become a really amazing agent, right? Is our job, when you just look at it, is talking to people and asking them asking questions, and always have in saying one of the biggest things that you can do is to make other people feel important, make me feel important, right? Yet how often do we ask really thought-provoking questions to our own selves, right? And so asking yourself questions of like, what are the things that bring me joy? Okay. How do I want to show up in the world? What does the best version of Brandon look like? Right. And really sit in that. And it all starts with a vision. And so when you start feeling, it's easy to start feeling burnout when you don't have clear vision for your life and a clear purpose behind your actions or what you're doing. Because if it's so easy to get caught up in this rat race of like, oh my goodness, listing appointment, going on this, lead generate, follow up, script and role play, all of that good stuff. And yet if you don't have clear connection to your vision, so two things that can actually help, and these are tangible things that you can bring back with you. Things that truly help me are having I time block my mornings, right? So my mornings are definitely time blocked of the things that build me joy through working out, listening to praise music, going ahead and I have my multiple script and role play partners. Then on Mondays, I have my worship meeting that's tied into real estate. And then we go ahead and lead generate, right? For me, it's mostly lead follow-up. Because I've definitely built a business where it's referral based. And so I do a lot of making sure we're just following up with people and people don't get left behind. And then the second thing that you can do, and I last mega camp, this was shared. It was one of the MAPS coaches. I forget his name. I'm not going to butcher it. Yet having that clear vision, I would implore you to write yourself, just like kind of you do in bold, but do it on the next level of where do I see Brandon in 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, and having clear and revisiting that on a weekly basis. I choose to do it on Sunday of like, these are the things that we're working towards. When you're working towards that mission for your life and yet vision for your life, it's so much easier to all the other stressors to let them go, right? It's like, oh, okay. And then the other thing is to things aren't stressful when you have multiple things going on. Like if you have one deal going on, it's really stressful if one is falling off. But I would say lead generate until you can't tolerate. Like, and so I love firing. Well, I don't love firing people, but I love firing the wrong people in my life. And so if you're gonna be too much of an issue, I will let somebody else. That's not my ministry. I'm not talking to you. And so I hope that answered that question.
Absolutely. Brandon, man, you dropped so many truth bombs, and I definitely appreciate having you, your transparency, your vulnerability, your openness and willingness to share, man. It's been absolutely a joy having you here today, chatting with you. I know I definitely got some huge takeaways from chatting with you. I'm sure everybody else on the call did. So yes, we will wrap this up. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. Truly appreciate it. And you guys, let's go out and let's be productive.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Enjoy your morning. Talk to you
Thanks,
later.
Brandon. Thanks, Carlos.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Hey, y'all.